Picture the span of one single day, not your day, the planet's midnight to midnight, 24 hours standing in for 4.5 billion years. Every minute you live through represents roughly 3 million years of real time. And somewhere near the very end of that day, right before the next midnight begins, you show up. At the first tick of midnight, Earth is born. It's furious and orange and dry. No oceans, no blue anywhere. Just molten rock cooling into a crust that keeps cracking back open. For the next 3/4 of an hour, 300 million years in real time, comets and asteroids fall out of the sky by the thousands, and everyone carries a little more water. Slowly, an ocean gathers. But it isn't the ocean you know. It's black, thick with heavy metals, closer to poison than to water. Here's where it gets strange. Those heavy metals don't stay in the water. Gravity and the churn of the crust pull them down deeper until they sink into the core. The ocean clears. But something else happens down there instead. Some of what sank is radioactive. Uranium, thorium, elements that split themselves apart and release heat as they go. Left alone, that heat has nowhere to escape. It builds and builds until the core is a slow, self-sustaining furnace, and everything that fell down there ends up as iron. That molten iron core spins with the planet, and a spinning ball of liquid metal generates something almost incidental, a magnetic field. That field wraps the planet in an invisible shell, holding the atmosphere in place, and the atmosphere blocks most of the radiation that would otherwise sterilize the surface. A planet that started as molten rock has, without meaning to, built its own umbrella. By 1 a.m, 4 billion years ago on the real calendar, every piece is somehow in position. Water arrived by accident. The poison sank by accident. The sinking created heat by accident. The heat created a magnetic field by accident, and the field protected the surface. Also by accident. It reads, less like coincidence and more like setup. None of it means life had to happen. Life needed chemistry, and chemistry needed motion. That's where the moon comes in. Nobody is certain exactly when it formed, but it sat far closer to Earth in these early hours, and its pull churned the primordial ocean violently, forcing reactions that would never happen in still water. Most of the useful chemistry, though, was buried underground. The uranium, again, dragged it up, decaying, heating groundwater until it boiled through vents, cooled in the ocean, and sank back down to be heated all over again. A loop. Uranium built a primitive nuclear reactor, and its only job was to keep the water moving. Could lightning and tides really turn seawater into the building blocks of life? In 1953, a graduate student named Stanley Miller and his advisor Harold Urey at the University of Chicago tried to find out. They sealed water, methane, ammonia, and hydrogen into a glass loop, sparked it with electricity to mimic lightning, and let it condense and cycle for a week straight. The water turned red. Inside it, amino acids built from nothing but simple gases and a spark. It didn't prove life happened exactly this way. It proved life's raw materials could appear this easily. Fatty acids drift together and form membranes. Amino acids link into proteins. Sugars, phosphates, and bases assemble into RNA. Mix them under the right chemistry, wrap a strand of self-copying RNA inside a fatty membrane, and you have something new. Not a chemical reaction anymore, but the first thing that can honestly be called alive. On the clock, that happens at 1 a.m. Life follows the planet by barely an hour. What actually counts as life, though? Something has to be distinct from its surroundings. A drop of water isn't alive because nothing separates it from the water around it, but wrap a membrane around a chemical process, and now it's a self. It has to process energy, taking something in and pushing waste back out, and it has to copy itself. That last part is the impossible one. It's a bit like rubbing sticks and grass together until they form a sheet of paper, then somehow getting that paper to start photocopying itself. And yet here you are. By 2 a.m, those first RNA-based cells ran into a flaw in their own design. A single strand copies imperfectly, and errors pile up fast. So somewhere in that hour, RNA strands began pairing with each other, locking into the double helix of DNA, a molecule built specifically to copy itself with far fewer mistakes. It's almost as if the earliest life looked at its own error rate and fixed it on purpose. 3 in the morning, a single-celled organism learns to do something nothing else on the planet can do yet. It uses sunlight to split water and release oxygen. You know it as cyanobacteria, one of the oldest surviving lineages on Earth. To everything else alive at the time, oxygen was a toxin, and cyanobacteria pumped it out relentlessly until it wiped most of them out. What survived did better than survive. Oxygen unlocks far more energy from a single meal than any other chemistry available. And that surplus is what eventually makes complex bodies possible at all. Fast forward to 5 in the morning and the planet freezes solid. A neighboring galaxy grazes the Milky Way, the collision seeds a wave of brilliant supernova, and the radiation thickens Earth's clouds until sunlight barely gets through. The oceans ice over, thin enough that life underneath survives. Stranded organisms built for one function, some that photosynthesize, some that survive without light, start merging into single, larger cells that can do several jobs at once, whether through cooperation or because a starving cell simply swallowed its neighbor and kept its genes. The result is the same: bigger, far more complex cells called eukaryotes, born directly out of catastrophe. Notice the pattern. Every leap in complexity so far follows a disaster, not a calm afternoon. It happens again at 7 when Earth's first continent rises out of magma, and again around 10 when another cosmic collision triggers a second deep freeze, and single cells stop working alone entirely, becoming the first multicellular animals, sponges first, then jellyfish, and trilobites the size of dinner plates. At 10:30, the clock produces its strangest 10 minutes, the Cambrian explosion, when 35 of the 40 animal body plans that will ever exist on Earth appear within what amounts to 2 minutes at this scale. Even Darwin admitted his own theory struggled to explain it cleanly. One leading explanation is almost anticlimactic. Ocean chemistry at that exact moment made certain minerals easy to build a skeleton from, so creatures likely already there simply started fossilizing for the first time. Whatever the cause, one of those early animals, a small bony fish, is the direct ancestor of every mammal, bird, reptile, and amphibian alive today, including you. Genetically speaking, you are a fish. From here, disaster and evolution keep trading blows on schedule. At 10:50, the first mass extinction clears half the ocean. At 11, a second devastates marine life. And in that same crisis, fish evolve lungs and crawl onto land. By 11:05, the first reptiles appear. At 11:15, the worst extinction in the planet's history kills 96% of ocean species and 70% of land species. And within 5 minutes, dinosaurs and mammals both walk onto the stage for the first time. A fourth extinction at 11:30 spares the dinosaurs entirely while wiping out nearly every rival reptile, clearing their path to total dominance for no reason anyone has fully explained. Then, at 11:50, a 10-kilometer rock falls out of the sky over what is now Mexico. In 1980, physicist Luis Alvarez and his geologist son Walter found a thin layer of iridium in rock strata worldwide, an element rare on Earth but common in asteroids, and traced the fifth mass extinction directly to that impact. Every dinosaur, without exception, disappears. Mammals, small and unnoticed until now, inherit the planet. Primates follow, around 11:59 and 12 seconds after sudden jumps in brain size that line up oddly precisely with major volcanic events the first true humans appear. Compare your genome to a chimpanzee's and it matches at 96% or higher. What separates you sits in a small cluster of DNA that researcher Catherine Pollard identified as unusually active only in humans. The same regions exist in other primates but sit dormant there. Switched on in you, they shape the neurons of your cortex, the flexibility of your thumb, and your capacity for language. At 11:59 and 58 seconds, agriculture begins, not in one place, but on every inhabited continent within the same narrow window, right as humans finish spreading across the entire planet. Why then, exactly then? Nobody fully knows. Farming brings surplus food, and surplus food frees hands for other work. Trade, tools, writing, law. 6,500 years ago, the world's first true city, rises in Mesopotamia. 300 years ago, a steam engine kicks off an industrial revolution. 80 years ago, computers arrive. 50 years ago, you watch a human walk on the moon, live on television. That brings the clock to exactly noon, right now, the exact midpoint between Earth's birth and Earth's death. What comes next in the second half of this day is quieter and far less kind. Around 1 in the afternoon, 400 million years from now, atmospheric carbon dioxide drops too low for most plants to survive, and without plants, nearly everything above them on the food chain follows. Somewhere between 2:30 and 4 in the afternoon, the core finally cools enough to stop generating a magnetic field. The solar wind strips the atmosphere away with nothing left to stop it, and the oceans boil off into space. By 10:30 at night, 4 billion years from now, the Milky Way collides with the Andromeda Galaxy, and whatever might still be clinging to a bare, dry rock gets scoured by radiation one final time. And at the very last stroke of midnight, 4,500 million years from now, the sun simply expands and swallows the planet whole. It is almost impossible to stop, and by every law of physics currently understood, it will happen exactly on schedule. So here's the same day again, the one you started with. Your entire life, waking to sleeping, was never really your day at all. It was one ordinary tick on a clock that started ticking long before oceans existed and will keep ticking long after they have boiled away. You did not arrive at the beginning of this story, or even the middle. You arrived 4 seconds before the only midnight that has ever mattered, on a planet that spent its entire morning quietly building the conditions for you to be possible.